Hello everybody and welcome back to Grandma's Kitchen. Today we're going to be making two pies. One crazy weird pie that I've never heard of before, and two, a strawberry rhubarb pie which I've made before. So I've got my strawberries and my rhubarb. It's in a bowl with a cup of sugar and a half a cup of flour, and you mix it all together. There's still some flour at the bottom. You mix it all together and you let this sit for 30 minutes, and this will get draw all the liquid out of the rhubarb. And you put it in the pie, and you won't have a mushy pie. When it bakes and it gets real juicy. You don't want it soupy. You don't want it mushy. So that's been sitting. I mixed that and cut those up before, and that's been sitting for about 15 minutes. So I'm going to put that aside while we finish the rest. We're going to start with our crazy pie. It's called a magic pie. This pie, I just came across one of my copycat recipes, and this pie has no crust. It makes its own crust. You put everything in a blender, then in your pie pan, and it makes 3 layers just like that. I did make one with pineapple. The original recipe calls for shredded coconut, and it said in the note below that if you didn't have coconut, you could use pineapple, crushed pineapple. So I didn't have any coconut, but I did have the pineapple, so I tried it, and it was pretty good. It was sweet because of the pineapple, but that's what pie you want. So today I bought some coconut, so now I'm going to do it this way. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you how to get started with this while our rhubarb and strawberries are sitting, and then I'll make the crust for the pie. So for this, what you do is you put all the ingredients into your blender, mix it up, pour it into your pie pan, a deep dish, pie dish that has been greased and floured, and bake it for 35 minutes, and there you go, 1, 2, 3, magic. You got a pie. So let's get started. We need a half a cup of butter. Get my butter out here. Alrighty. I hope all of you are safe and you haven't come across anybody, or you haven't contracted this nastiness that's in the world today. I hope you're all keeping safe, keeping well. Don't go out if you don't have to. That makes the world a better place. The cases are slowing down around this area, but they're still out there, so you still want to take precautions when you do go out. So there we go, half a cup of butter. Now to that we're going to put in 2 cups of milk. And I have to get another bag of milk.
Subscribe to Donna Brody. Subscribe to Donna Brody.
I thought you were changing your name. Hold on a second here. Okay, so now, I'm sorry, I had to get another bag of milk out. So we need 2 cups of milk. We've already put the half a cup of butter in our blender. And unfortunately, this is going to be really loud for a minute, but you know, there's not much I can do about it because we have to.
Sorry for the headphone wearers.
The first time I did it, I didn't have a blender, and I mixed it all by hand, and it was okay. It made the layers, but now we've got a blender, so we're going to try to see if there's a difference, if it makes the layers better. So to this, we're going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla. That goes in, and we need 1 cup of sugar. Sugar goes in, there's half a cup, and another half a cup, that's 1, and we need 4 eggs in this guy. The filling is almost like a custard. That's what it's kind of like. So if you don't like custard, you probably won't like this, but all those out there that do, give it a try. And if you don't like custard, but you know somebody that does, bake them a pie, and you know, make their day. Take it over and put it on somebody's porch, ring the doorbell and say, here you go, here's a pie. You know, you're social distancing because you're not near them, but you're making them happy. Alright, and to the 4 eggs, now we need a half a cup of flour. And a cup of flour. That's so full, I'm hoping it doesn't go explode all over me. And 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. Just a little shake. And 1 cup of shredded coconut. And like I said, you can substitute for 1 cup of crushed pineapple, which is what I did last time. I mean, obviously the taste is going to be completely different, pineapple versus coconut. But, you know, try both. Why not? I did make the pineapple one, and it was pretty good.
Man, the pineapple one was good.
You like that, did you, Donna Brody? All right, and a cup of coconut. All right, now you put this in your blender, you put it on the machine, and you mix it very, very thoroughly. And I'm just going to pause the video for just a second because it's going to be very, very loud. I don't want that noise on the video. Okay, so now that was done. It wasn't quite as loud as I thought it was, but it was still pretty loud. So there you can see it in my blender jar. It is all nice and mixed up. So now all you do is you pour this into a deep dish pie crust or pie shell. Now mine is not gonna fit. Maybe their pie crust, my dish is a little deeper, so I'm just gonna leave a little bit of it out because it's gonna rise up a little bit and probably overflow. So what I'm gonna do, sorry about that noise, I'm going to put it on a cookie sheet, so if it does overflow, it overflows onto the cookie sheet, not into my oven. So I'm going to set this aside because, and I spilled it, there we go, it's a good thing it's on the pie sheet. Because the strawberry pie and this pie bakes pretty much the same time, I'm going to go ahead and finish my strawberry pie and put it in the oven at the same time, so they both bake together. It's pretty warm out today, so we don't want the oven on any longer than we have to. I don't know where you all are listening to, my viewers, but let me know in the comments below if you had that big old thunderstorm we had last night. It was amazing. My grandson and I sat out there and watched the thunder and lightning for, probably about 45 minutes. So now we're going to make my pie crust. I've made this in previous videos. You can go ahead and buy a pie crust already pre-made. It's alright. They work. But, I mean, I'm not at the grocery store and I'm not going out shopping unnecessarily. So you do want a 2-crust pie crust because you need to make a top. So I'm putting in 3 cups of flour. Save that out because I need to roll it into flour. 3 cups of flour, and I'm going to use about, I guess a 1/2 cup of butter, and I'm going to mix that in. Where is my pastry blender? Oh, all right, I'm going to mix it in with my pastry blender if I can find my pastry blender. It got put in a different drawer apparently when, alright, just a minute now. There we go. It just got put in the wrong drawer. So we're gonna, again, I've showed you this in my other videos. You can use 2 knives crisscrossing back and forth, but this, you can buy these even at the dollar store nowadays. You just make this and you just, you know, chop the butter up and go in a motion like this, turn your bowl around and around, and it breaks up the butter and mixes in with the flour. And when it gets nice and crumbly, then you can add your water. I didn't put in my salt. I'm going to put in like a teaspoon of salt. I want that in there. So there we go. I don't necessarily measure when I make my pie crust. I just eyeball it because I've made enough before, so I know what I need. But just any recipe of pie crust will do. Whatever your favorite is, if you have one. There. And that 1/2 cup of butter was just enough. As you can see how nice and crumbly this is. This is what you want. This is the texture you want. So to that we're going to add very cold water. You're supposed to add ice water, but I find cold water from the tap is just fine. You want to start with about 1/2 cup. You don't want to put too much in because if you do that, then you have to add more flour if it's too wet, and then your pie crust will be dense. It won't be nice and flaky and light. Okay. I'm just going to add a little bit. You put a little bit at a time in. Less is more right now in pie crust. You give it a good stir and see if it's starting to see how it's starting to clump. You want it to all hold together. Now that's not near enough because just by mixing it I can see when I go like this it's going to fall right apart in my hands. So we need some more. Just a little at a time until you get it right. You don't want to over mix your pie crust to your flour or too much water, because then it just becomes too thick and too dense. It won't roll nice, it won't cook nice and flaky. And that is just about got it. When you can squeeze it and it all stays together, that's what you're looking for. A little bit more. And then we're going to put it onto a floured bowl. We're going to actually cut it in half. Put it onto a floured bowl floured board, sorry, not a floured bowl. I'm not making bread, I'm making pie crust. And give it a good roll. We're going to roll out the bottom. The strawberries and rhubarb have sat long enough. There we are, now it's getting there. And you just give it a little turn like this with your hands. You can use a mixer if you want, or a spoon, fork. But you get right in there with your hands, and then you can feel if it's the right texture. You want to know that it's not too watery, not too wet, but it's not too dry either. You'll know once you start making it, you'll know what it feels like. This is perfect. So I'm going to break this in half. Set this bowl over here. Get all my other stuff out of the way. And we're going to sprinkle a little bit of flour on my board. My counter, actually. I don't have a board. I have a counter. Put that on there. And you take half the pie crust out. And as you're rolling, if you find that it's still too dry, you can add just a touch or two, a few drops of water while it's on your board, and just mix it in. I've done that where I thought it was in a good consistency and it turned out it wasn't. It's rolling out very easy, very nice. Give it a turn. You want to try to keep it in a circle. Go this way and then this way and this way. Turn it. If you don't keep it in a circle, then it's going to be a little awkward to fit it in your pie pan, because pies are circles. You just keep turning it, giving it 2 or 3 goes with the rolling pin. Turn it. Now I've got a big hole, so what you do with that is you just pinch it back together and push it down and then roll over it, and it'll fill the hole right back in again. Okay, so with the topping you make a lattice, which is you have to roll your pie dough out and then cut it in strips and then weave, under over kind of thing. I have seen rhubarb pie that had a full crust, but it's just like an apple pie or a blueberry, any berry pie. They should have a lattice crust. So here we go. It's a little jaggedy around the edges. It didn't come out as perfect as I wanted it, but as long as it fits in my pie plate, I can trim off the messy edges. Make it a little bigger than you need it, and then you can just cut the edges off. Alright, so we're going to fold it in half, get your pie plate, put her right in there, and see, it's alright. It didn't, a couple of spots where it's not up as high as it should be, so then you break off a piece that you're going to cut off and you just work it in there. It doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, perfect pie crust is what you get with Martha Stewart and bakeries. With me, you get rustic pie crust. And you get, oops, I made a mistake, pie crust. So you just fix it. You just go ahead and work it. You don't want to mess with it too much, because again, it's going to be tough. So that's it. There's your bottom crust. Now instead of pouring this in, because the liquid is all in the bottom, if I just poured it in, all the liquid would come with it. So I'm going to be a little more patient than I usually am, and I'm going to spoon it. Actually, I think what I'm going to do is get my slotted spoon, so that way if I do get any liquid, it'll drain. Can you see it dripping? It's dripping right out of my, oh, I got my hands too high. If you see it dripping, there you go. You don't want that much juice in there. You want just a little bit. So you want to scoop it and give it a tap. Let all that drain off of there. You don't want that liquid. That makes your crust soggy. That when it bakes, it's a soupy pie instead of a fruit pie. Give it a shake. I mean, some of the liquid's going to get in there, of course, but you want to get off as much as you can. That's why a slotted spoon is their best bet, because then it goes right back into the bowl. Now this called for 2 cups of rhubarb and 4 cups of strawberries. And you just chop the rhubarb in tiny pieces, like you would celery. You treat it like you would celery. It's really hard. And if you've never had rhubarb, we get this grown wild. A neighbor of ours has it and cuts it and gives it to us. I mean, you can buy rhubarb in the grocery store. When I was a girl, I would go and pick wild rhubarb, my brothers and I, and we'd come home, we'd cut the ends off of it, get a little bowl of sugar, and sit there and you dip it in the sugar, and then you take a bite. And you dip it in the sugar. Oh, it's so delicious. It's real tart, so when you dip it in the sugar, then you got sweet, so you got sweet tart. And let me tell you, we used to do that all spring long until it ran out. So there we go. Now as I get to the bottom, it's even more and more of the juice, the liquid. So I'm just gonna get that all off of there. Almost got it all. And now I'm gonna make the top crust, and then these pies have to bake for 30 to 35 minutes. So I'll put y'all on pause and I'll come back in 30 minutes to show you what our lovely pies look like, and I'll cut a piece of the magic pie and show you how cool it is. It makes 3 layers. It makes its own crust, it makes the middle, and then it makes the topping. It is very, very cool. Okay. 2 more spoonfuls here. Just trying not to get too much of that liquid. I don't want that in my, wetting up my crust. There we go. All those berries out of there. You want all of that fruit. There, and you just spread it out so it's nice and even. Put that aside, and that's what your pie filling looks like. Yum. So now we're going to take our other half of the crust, and we're going to roll it out into a lattice, which is straight. You make it, cut it, roll it out. You don't have to worry about it being circle this time. You want it kind of a rectangle or square, because you're going to cut strips on. And it's really simple to do. I'm going to just get this flattened out a little bit. Okay, so you roll it a bit so it starts coming back on itself, then turn it. Same thing as you did for the top crust, but you don't want to keep it round. It'll be easier to cut later. You won't have so much trimming to do if you do it in a square. You want it long enough to go from side to side on your pie tin. Use a tin, or I'm using a glass one. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want to use. It's getting up there nice. And it split right down the middle on me, which happens once in a while. So you just poke it back together. Sometimes you can add just a little bit of water to hold it down if it keeps coming apart. If you have a hole in your crust and it won't stay mended, you just dab it with a little bit of water, and that gets it, whoopsie, gets it held together. It acts like glue. Oh, I might have to do this twice. Sometimes I don't get enough pieces to go both sides of the pie. So let's see what we got here. You just take a butter knife, nothing fancy about it. You trim off your edges so you have a straight work area, so it's all even. You want all your strips as even as you can, and you want the pie crust to be the same thickness. Now I have used, and I can show you, I'm just going to roll this a little flatter, It's a little bit too thick. You don't want it real thick because then you've got more crust than pie. So you want it a little bit, whoopsie, coming up off my board. So what I have done before, you can use a kitchen knife like I just did, or you can use a pizza wheel. And that's a little quicker actually because it's a lot sharper. Now see, it's real thin there and it's thick there, so I just need to even this out a little bit. You want it all the same thickness so it cooks all the same, and plus you don't want to bite into a real thick piece of crust and then a real thin one, but mostly it's for the cooking. So you just take your pizza wheel or your knife and you make about, half an inch or so. Just, you can measure it, you can eyeball it, as long as they're pretty much all the same. And you just keep going until you've used it all up. And we're going to cross our fingers that it's enough to go both sides, both ways, because you have to put a layer on one way and a layer on the other, and that just missed. There we go. Okay, so to make your lattice work, I don't know if I've ever made a pie and showed you this before, but if not, here it is. To make your lattice, it's just like weaving, over, under, over, under. You put your stripes, your strips of dough. You want them a little bit apart. You don't want them touching all the way, but not big gaps. I'm going to start off with medium kind of gaps because I want to make sure I have enough. I can always stick another piece in there if I have enough to go across. Okay, so that looks about even. So then you take your dough and you go the other way. So you go over, under, over, under, over, under, and over. And you just keep repeating that pattern, just like when you were a child and you did weaving with paper. So this one, you go under. And you put it right to the edge of your crust. And then every other one, you lift up. Under, over, under, over, under, over, and under. You can give it a little stretch. If it's not quite long enough, just give it a little stretch and pinch it to the edge of your pie crust, your pie pan, and that way it'll fit. It'll, in case one is a little bit shorter than the other, which happens if you're not really careful cutting them. There we go. I'm going to have just enough. So now we want under. And we bake these at, well, it says 400 degrees. I never have my oven on more, oops, broke it. I never have my oven on more than 350. I have an energy saver in my oven, and 350 is plenty hot enough. I find that things burn if I have it any higher. So I'm going to put it in the 350 oven for 35 to 40 minutes. And we'll take it out and see how it looks. And there you go. Now to this, you can butter it or you could do an egg wash, whichever you prefer. Egg wash in either one, it makes it kind of brown up a little bit. And if you really like to, sometimes I have I'm going to hold it up and just before I'm going to trim it, all those extra pieces. I just take a knife and keep turning it and trimming it till it's all even. You don't want those pieces of crust overlapping onto the pie pan. So there we go. There it is, strawberry rhubarb pie. Now we just have to bake it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to brush a little bit of butter on mine. And you can sprinkle your crust with sugar if you want to. That'll give it a little bit, it'll crystallize, it'll make brown a little bit more. I do that sometimes depending on the pie. You can use brown sugar, you can use white sugar, it doesn't matter. And like I also said, you can also use an egg wash. You whisk an egg real good with just a teaspoon of water, and it'll give you pretty much the same effects. I just like the buttery taste of it, so I use butter. Okay, perfect. There we go. So this guy goes on a cookie sheet as well. You don't want to have to clean your oven. It's not fun. And we're going to pop these two in the oven and cook them for 35 minutes. Real careful with the custard pie because it's going to spill all over the place. And there we go. So I will come back here in 35 minutes and show you the finished products. Okay, and we're back now with our completed pies. This is what it looks like when it's before it's cut, and this is what it looks like when it's sliced. You can see the 3 layers. You can't really see the crust, it's pretty thin, but if I lift, let me get a knife here and just lift it up a little bit to show you. There's the crust on the bottom, and then you have your second layer, and then this topping. It's almost like the coconut has risen to the top and made a crispy topping. So that's the magic pie, which I will include the ingredients and the instructions down below in the descriptions like I always do. And here is our yummy strawberry rhubarb pie. Look at how nice and juicy that is. And it's not real runny. It's not real icky juicy because you don't want it to get soggy. And you got your nice crust underneath and your crust on top. So that's our 2 pies for today. I hope you enjoy it. Please leave a comment if you like them, if you want to make them yourself. If you do, let me know how it comes out. And if there's anything you'd like to see me bake or cook, leave it in the comment below and I will try my best to get it done. And please hit the like buttons. Please hit the like button. Let's try to get 50 likes on this. I get views, but I don't get the likes. So try to remember to hit the like button and ring the bell when you ring the bell, and then you know when I'm in the kitchen again. And please subscribe if you haven't already. So everybody stay safe, stay well, and enjoy my recipes and help yourself to making them. Enjoy them. Have a good day. Bye-bye.